Hello, Stacey Murphy here talking about a topic dear to my heart, inspiring youth farmers and growers. Let's talk about inviting young people into the joys of growing food. There are a lot of life lessons for people of all ages in the areas of food and farming, and I get this question all the time. How do you engage a dozen young people or even 100 young people in an exciting learning experience in your growing space? So whether you're running programs of your own or if you show up at a volunteer day somewhere and they're short-staffed and need your help supervising youth, here are some tips. First, circle up and create a safe space. No matter what age group, circles are the best way for everyone to see each other's faces. So get in a close circle where everyone can see and hear each other. And not only is this a great place to play a game and get to know each other a little better, but it's also the place to talk about how everyone can help to create a safe space for the day. The younger the kids are, the simpler these instructions need to be. If this was a group of young adults, a little bit older than this, we might go through tool safety, all the tools they'd use that day, and also open dialogue guidelines to model what safe speech looks like. Next, you want to set group expectations. So if you're working with teens or older, you're going to be working with them for a while perhaps. Then you can take some time, sit down in a group and come up with some group norms together. Ask them to create these. And some of these group norms can be things like come prepared and on time, etc. And then write them down on a big board and then have everybody sign these expectations as a way to commit to them while they're in that growing space. Next, you want to start them off by tantalizing their taste buds. And I like to explore with a taste test. So my personal favorite taste test tour is for young people to go around and find 5 different greens that represent the flavors of spicy, sweet, sour, bitter, and savory. And if it's young kids, we'll walk around together and pick them because I know what tastes like which one of those flavors, and so I'll help them identify. But if it's older kids, I'll send them on a scavenger hunt and maybe give them some clues. And my absolute favorite thing is to watch someone eat a sour perennial sorrel leaf, which is the image on the right. See them for the first time eat that and see their face light up at its sourness, or a peppery nasturtium leaf and see the confusion on their face that all that pepper comes from such a pretty plant. So a taste test is a really great way to get people excited about the space. And then you can expand that taste test into a 5 senses tour. So you've already, their taste buds are alive and they're generally hooked on having more experiences with the plants. So why not figure out how to get all 5 senses involved? I often have youth run their hands over some of the more fragrant herbs to see if they can identify the plants by smell, which is a lot of fun. Have them guess. There's lots of insects and birds to identify by sound too. So get creative. Youth love to explore, they love to guess, they love to learn. And then you want to challenge youth to succeed. And this is how I interpret one of the popular education strategies. It's called I do, we do, you do. So the idea is to give people a manageable task, show them the easiest way you know to accomplish the task, ask them to describe the task in detail to make sure they understand it, have them show you how they would do it, provide any helpful hints to them, and then work next to them for 5 minutes so you can learn from each other and you can supervise to make sure they're doing the task really well. Then excuse yourself, walk away, and watch them from afar for 5 minutes, far enough away they don't feel watched, and check in with them after 5 minutes to let them know how they're doing, see if they have any additional questions. If all's well, then let them go unsupervised for another 15 minutes or until the task is complete, and keep checking in with them at 15-minute increments. When it's complete, you want to ask them what they learned and if they have any feedback for you. So take a moment to really appreciate them for what they did before you move on to something else. They've just accomplished something and it feels really good to be recognized. So this process works really well. The image on the right is a bunch of youth farmers all working on their own after being set up for a task. This doesn't work as well for younger kids. So, you have to be there next to them every step of the way because there are a lot of ways they can get hurt. So look at the image on the left. That tool is just way too big for that kid, no matter how cute it is. So you want to challenge them to succeed and set them up for success. All right, so that being said, you also want to let them potentially fail. So when you're challenging youth to do something new, you set up the conditions for them to thrive and succeed, and you have to be willing to step back and let them learn and discover on their own, which means they might fail. And think about your biggest lessons in life. They don't come through, didn't they come through failure? So the irony is that this is no longer a failure, but actually one of their biggest learning opportunities. And in this case, in this image, we asked the youth to run a cooking demo for a visiting group. They did awesome. They spoke clearly and confidently. They used good knife skills. They made a delicious recipe that people loved. However, all three of them forgot to get the gloves for food safety, and they didn't have enough of the recipe prepared ahead of time, so they had to talk and talk and talk as they cooked. They were making up things to talk about, finding creative ways to keep people engaged. And I think the audience generally enjoyed it, even though it took a lot longer than they expected. And we warned them that this might happen, but they had to experience it for themselves. So sometimes you have to challenge youth and let them make mistakes on their own terms. That being said, challenge them with safety precautions. So what I mean by this is there are times when failure is not an option, and power tools is one of those. Safety first. So with youth that have never operated power tools, we practice the I do, we do, you do method of teaching. First, we show proper technique. Then we ask them to talk us through it together. Then we have them do it while we watch very closely, especially with power tools. So whenever someone can get physically hurt, that's when failure is not an option, and we teach and learn together very carefully. And of course, keep challenging youth. Challenge them again. If you've worked with youth for a while and they've learned a lot of skills, that's when it's time to walk away and let them do things on their own. Better yet, ask them to teach what they've learned to other youth. To lead and to teach, youth need to synthesize all the learning and organize it in a way that's easy for others to understand. And so here's a photo of our farmers market in the background, and these youth farmers are pros at this point. They help customers at the market, and when we start running out of a crop, they go into the field and they harvest more bunches. Then they all talk to each other as they're harvesting, and they make sure that all the bunches look pretty and that they're all close to the same weight, so that the customers aren't looking at each bunch and saying, well, I like that one over that one. So they're learning from each other, and they're working on their own. And then, of course, you want to listen to how youth are feeling. It's weird being a young adult. You know a whole lot about the world, but everyone still treats you like a kid, and you're learning how to take responsibility in the world and how to speak your mind. But sometimes adults treat you like your feelings are somehow wrong, and feelings can't be wrong. So get curious about how young people are feeling. Validate those feelings. We all want to be seen and to be heard. So understand those feelings. When you're working side by side in a growing space, you start to get to know what's going on in people's lives. It helps to have an outsider to talk to about your family and friends. So be there for them. And if you have a task that is very physical, like digging a 50-foot planting bed, you're going to need to talk about something while you're putting in hours of work. So it's good to get involved in people's lives and to hear what's going on with them. And when I say listen, the idea is to truly hear. So one of the mistakes I see adults make is that they assume they understand where a young person is coming from. After all, we were all young once. But this young person is probably not the young person you were, and they're growing up in a totally different time. So asking lots of clarifying questions is helpful. And in this picture, this was really a great day on the farm for me. This is the head of the Department of Youth and Community Development listening to our young farmers talk about the importance of good summer jobs. And I watched as she asked them question after question to make sure she truly understood what they were saying. And the youth walked away feeling really energized because they may have had an impact on the future of the Summer Youth Employment Program. They felt like they were truly heard. And of course, one of the things that I do on the farm is a lot of celebration and also making a game out of a lot of different things. So pretty much anything that you can do when growing food can be made into a game. So friendly competitions are fun, and the key word here is friendly. So you can play any game on the farm while you're working. You can play telephone, you can compete for a prize, try to do something better or faster. You can do quiz shows, you can do relay races, you can do Olympics, you can do a debate if you want to get the mind involved. You can do talent shows, and you can play teacher and try to teach each other. And all of these things are a way to keep youth engaged in the process because they like playing games. And then, of course, they like celebrating. So in this case, what I told the youth was that if we were to complete a task in a certain amount of time, that we would be able to go dance in the sprinkler system because it was a really, really hot day, and we needed it. So celebrating a job well done is always fun. If you've been turning compost for hours, why not turn on the sprinkler and dance fully clothed in the water to cool down and to celebrate? And celebration is what motivates us to learn and to grow. Celebration also marks our completion and our readiness to move on to another learning opportunity. And of course, at the end of the day, shout outs are a really excellent way to keep youth engaged. Celebrate the harvest, celebrate a beautiful farm stand, circle up and give youth an opportunity to give shout outs to who did a great job that day and what they did. Celebrate each other for all of our special gifts. Having the opportunity to work with youth and grow food is one of my greatest joys in life, and I hope you have this opportunity someday too. So here are some beginner tips for how to engage youth farmers in your growing space. Stacy Murphy here. See you next time.